The Veridian Tribunal had a flair for the theatrical when it came to executions. One might argue that any society advanced enough to harness quantum entanglement for faster-than-light travel should have evolved beyond public dismemberment, but evolution, as it happens, is not particularly concerned with moral development. The Veridians had simply gotten better at killing, while maintaining their fundamental love for watching things die. "Bring forward the human representative," announced High Adjudicator Zol, whose 7 sensory appendages quivered with what passed for excitement among the chitinous ruling class. Commander Ash Kovac walked into the massive amphitheater with the casual confidence of someone heading to brunch rather than their own execution. The crowd of various alien dignitaries murmured, clicked, and vibrated with anticipation. Humans were still novelties in this sector, unwelcome ones, but novelties nonetheless. "You stand accused of espionage against the Veridian hegemony, transmission of classified biometric data, and Zol paused dramatically, consuming food in a restricted ceremonial area." "The snack bar was unmarked," Kovac replied with a shrug. "And technically I was breathing, not eating. Your atmosphere is basically soup to us." The adjudicator's translator struggled with the idiom, which only intensified the official's irritation. "The sentence is molecular disassembly. Do you wish to make a final communication?" "'Tis wondering. Have you ever actually killed a human before?" Kovac glanced around at the execution apparatus. A glittering array of energy fields and molecular destabilizers that hummed with anticipation. "Your species is not special, human. Your molecular structure will separate just like any other carbon-based life form." "Fair enough. Proceed." The lack of pleading unsettled the tribunal members, who exchanged confused glances through their compound eyes. Begging was half the entertainment value. The other half was watching the body come apart. "Commence disassembly," ordered Zor. The crowd grew silent as energy fields activated around Commander Kovac. A blue glow enveloped her body, and through some trick of quantum mechanics that the Veridians considered proprietary technology, her matter began to separate at the molecular level. First her extremities dissolved into suspended particles, then her torso, and finally her head. The Veridians always saved consciousness for last, ensuring maximum psychological trauma before death. What the tribunal failed to understand about humans was not their physical construction, which was disappointingly standard, but rather what humans had done with that construction over centuries of technological development. "Collection complete," announced the technician operating the machine. "Subject's molecular pattern stored in buffer. Physical disassembly at 100%. High Adjudicator Zol approached the shimmering cloud of particles that had once been Commander Kovac. "Let this be a message to the human cooperative. The Veridian hegemony does not tolerate espionage. Your ambassador will be returned to you as component atoms in separate containers as dictated by our most ancient traditions." The crowd approved with a cacophony of clicks and whistles. The molecular cloud was systematically drawn into different receptacles. Proteins here, minerals there, water molecules elsewhere. The Veridians took great pride in the meticulous sorting of their victims. The ultimate insult was not just death, but categorical deconstruction. "The human threat has been neutralized," announced Zol to the assembled dignitaries. "Their attempts to establish a foothold in our space have been rebuffed. Let us proceed with the celebratory feast." Secondary Adjudicator Zet approached Zol as the crowd dispersed. "Was that wise? The humans might retaliate." "With what? Their technology is centuries behind ours. They barely understand quantum entanglement. Their ships must physically traverse space like primitive animals. By the time news reaches their central government, we will have secured the entire Cygnus arm." "But The human was caught mapping our biological responses. They sought weakness. We have shown them the consequence of such actions. Zeet's mandibles clicked nervously. Their ambassador requested the remains be ejected into space rather than returned, an unusual request. Probably some primitive spiritual practice. Humans are superstitious creatures. The ambassador seemed almost eager to have the execution proceed. That does not concern you? Zorl's sensory appendages flattened in dismissal. Their behavioral oddities are of no consequence. The disassembly was complete. Not even cellular structures remain intact. Whatever information Commander Kovac hoped to gather died with her consciousness. Across the vast hall, Ambassador Rill of the Human Cooperative accepted the official death certificate with peculiar calmness. The cylindrical alien merely dipped their communication appendage in acknowledgement when informed that Commander Kovac's remains would be jettisoned into space as requested. "The Tribunal appreciates your understanding in this matter," said the Veridian official. "Understanding is what humans do best," replied Ambassador Rill, before departing with the small entourage of human diplomatic staff, none of whom appeared particularly distressed by their commander's disassembly. Later that cycle, as the Veridian Tribunal celebrated their victory over human espionage attempts, the molecular components that had once constituted Commander Ash Kovac drifted through the vacuum of space, catching the light of distant stars like a brief glittering nebula before dispersing into the void. No one in the tribunal questioned why the humans had not protested more vigorously. No one wondered why Commander Kovac had seemed so unconcerned with her imminent disassembly. And certainly no one suspected that the molecular cloud now expanding through space was transmitting data back to the human cooperative fleet, waiting just beyond the edge of the system. The Veridians, for all their advanced technology, had yet to grasp a fundamental truth about humans. They had transcended the limitations of singular physical existence centuries ago. 3 standard cycles after the execution, the Veridian Tribunal hosted an interstellar summit to formalize their expansion into formally contested space. The Grand Hall buzzed with representatives from a dozen subjugated species, each one carefully positioned according to their value to the hegemony. Ceremonial guards lined the perimeter, their exoskeletons polished to a mirror shine for the occasion. High Adjudicator Zorl presided from an elevated platform, flanked by the 6 members of the ruling council. "Today marks a new epoch for the hegemony," Zorl announced, voice modulation set to authoritative grandeur. "With the human interference eliminated, we assert dominion over the Cygnus trade routes and all associated territories." The assembled dignitaries performed their expected gestures of submission, all except Ambassador Ryle of the Human Cooperative, who stood motionless at the far edge of the gathering. "Ambassador," Zorl acknowledged with the barest minimum of mandible movement, "your continued presence honors us, though it serves little diplomatic purpose now." "Actually," a voice called from the entrance of the hall, "the ambassador is just my ride." Every compound eye in the room swiveled toward the doorway. Standing there, wearing a crisp black uniform with silver insignia, was Commander Ash Kovac. The same Commander Ash Kovac whose molecular deconstruction had been certified, recorded, and celebrated 3 cycles prior. A ripple of panic chittering cascaded through the assembly. 2 ceremonial guards collapsed into defensive postures. Secondary Adjudicator Zeet emitted a high-pitched alarm pheromone that triggered emergency ventilation systems. Kovac strolled forward, hands clasped behind her back, steps measured and unhurried. "Please, don't stop the party on my account. I'm just dropping by to continue our diplomatic negotiations." "Impossible," Zol's sensory appendages flared in what might have been terror on a less evolved species. You were disassembled. Your molecular pattern was dispersed. About that, Kovac approached the central dais, prompting the guards to form a protective barrier around the tribunal members. Your disassembly technique is fascinating. Quite painless, actually. Our scientists are incredibly grateful for the demonstration. Zeet's mandibles clacked rapidly. This must be a twin, a clone. Scan me, Kovac suggested, spreading her arms. Full molecular analysis. You'll find I'm exactly who I appear to be. A junior adjudicator activated a handheld scanner, its purple beam washing over the human commander. The device chimed, then displayed results that caused the adjudicator to drop it. The scanner clattered across the polished floor. Well, Kovac prompted. Molecular pattern match, 100%, the junior adjudicator whispered. It is the same human. Ambassador Reel finally moved, gliding forward to stand beside Kovac. Perhaps the tribunal would benefit from an explanation of human consciousness transfer protocols. It seems there's been a misunderstanding about what constitutes death for our species. Zol's appendages twitched spasmodically. What trickery is this? No trickery, Kovac replied. Just different technological paths. You focused on quantum entanglement for transportation. We focused on consciousness mapping and synthetic body production. The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably. Consciousness transfer wasn't unknown in the galaxy, but the casual manner in which the humans employed it suggested capabilities far beyond what the Veridian intelligence reports had indicated. When exactly did you transfer your consciousness? Demanded Zol. Who says I transferred it? Kovac smirked. Maybe I'm running parallel instances. Maybe this body was printed last cycle. Maybe I'm broadcasting from our flagship and this is just an avatar. The possibilities are quite numerous. A member of the ruling council leaned forward. If this capability is genuine, why allow yourself to be executed at all? Data collection, Ambassador Rill interjected. Commander Kovac volunteered to undergo molecular disassembly to gather precise information about Veridian technology. The process was extensively monitored. The implication hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The execution had been permitted, welcomed even, as an intelligence operation. The humans had sacrificed nothing while gaining valuable data. Your violation of our sovereign technological processes is an act of war, Zol declared, though the usual authority had leached from his voice. Interesting perspective, Kovac replied. From where I stand, having my molecules scattered across space without consent might also constitute an act of war. Yet here I am, ready to negotiate rather than retaliate. The atmosphere in the hall shifted perceptibly. Several subjugated species representatives were exhibiting behaviors consistent with suppressed jubilation. Perhaps, Zeet suggested cautiously, we should adjourn to private chambers to discuss these developments. Oh, I think we're past closed-door negotiations, Kovac gestured toward the viewports lining the hall's eastern wall. Beyond the transparent barriers, previously empty space now contained a fleet of sleek vessels that had somehow appeared without triggering a single Veridian proximity alert. Their hulls gleamed with a material unknown to hegemony metallurgists, and they displayed no visible propulsion systems or weapon mounts. Their smooth exteriors offered no hints as to how they functioned. The cooperative believes in transparency, Ambassador Ryle explained. We thought it appropriate to bring additional diplomatic staff to ensure our discussions remain productive. Panic erupted among the tribunal members, communication channels overloaded as contradictory orders flew between security forces. The ceremonial guards found themselves paralyzed by conflicting protocols. None of their training had covered the resurrection of an executed spy backed by an impossible fleet. Through the chaos, Commander Kovac remained perfectly still, watching with the placid expression of someone who had calculated each reaction with mathematical precision. "Your execution protocols need refinement," she remarked to no one in particular, "though I suppose I should thank you for the unique perspective. Not many get to experience their own molecular deconstruction and live to remember it." "What do you want?" Zol finally demanded, abandoning pretense and protocol. Kovac's expression shifted to something resembling pity. "The same thing we wanted before you decided to take me apart, a conversation about the future of this sector. But now, I believe the conversational dynamics have shifted somewhat." As various emergency containment fields activated throughout the hall, Commander Kovac reached into her pocket and withdrew a small device. The tribunal members recoiled, expecting a weapon. Instead, she activated a holographic display, showing a complete schematic of the Veridian disassembly apparatus, with significant modifications and improvements highlighted in glowing red. "Shall we begin again?" Kovac asked. "We have so much to discuss about molecular restructuring, starting with how easily your supposedly proprietary technology can be enhanced by human engineering principles." The Veridian Tribunal, masters of 1,000 star systems, found themselves utterly speechless, confronted not just by a commander they had killed, but by the terrifying possibility that humans viewed death itself as merely an inconvenient data point. The tribunal chamber transformed into something between a war room and an academic symposium within moments of Commander Kovac's revelation. Emergency containment protocols were suspended, guards retreated to the periphery, representatives of subjugated species were ushered out amid protests. Their first glimpse of Veridian vulnerability was too precious to willingly abandon.
"Your biosignature is anomalous," observed tribunal biologist Necht, whose specialized appendages waved, scanning instruments before Kovac's face. "You register as both organic and synthetic simultaneously." "Perceptive," Kovac acknowledged. "Our bodies are hybridized constructs, largely organic but with significant synthetic components that enable consciousness migration."
Adjudicator Zol had recovered enough composure to project authority once more. "This technology violates natural order. Consciousness belongs in its original vessel. Says the species that transfers its young into 3 successive host bodies before adulthood," Ambassador Ryle noted dryly. "Your objection seems less biological than philosophical." Zol's appendages flattened against his carapace. "Those are natural metamorphic processes, not artificial." "The line between natural and artificial becomes rather blurry at our level of development," Kovac interrupted. "Your quantum entanglement transportation works by destroying the original and creating a copy elsewhere. How is that fundamentally different?" "Our bodies remain unchanged during transport," hissed secondary adjudicator Zit. "Actually," Kovac projected a complex mathematical equation from her palm, "your transport system creates a perfect duplicate and destroys the original. You're all copies of yourselves, experiencing the illusion of continuous existence." The equation hung in the air, its implications cascading through the assembled tribunal members like a virus. Several began rapid-fire calculations on personal devices, seeking errors in the human's mathematics. "Impossible," whispered one council member. "If true, we would have detected." "The divergence is quantum level and cumulative," Kovac explained. "Your systems aren't calibrated to detect it, because you've never looked for it. Your transporters are creating new versions of you with each use, your consciousness transferred, but your original self destroyed. Horrified silence descended upon the chamber. The Veridians had built their empire on the principle that their transportation technology was fundamentally different from crude replication systems. Their entire society functioned on the belief of continuous, unbroken existence. Ambassador Rill glided forward. The human cooperative has no interest in destabilizing your civilization. We merely wish to establish that our understanding of consciousness and existence is, shall we say, more nuanced than your intelligence suggested. My disassembly was recorded at the quantum level, Kovac added. The data revealed fascinating aspects of your process, particularly how it preserves quantum state information during molecular separation. That's the key component we hadn't considered. Zor's compound eyes narrowed. You used your own execution as a research opportunity. Multi-tailing is a human specialty, Kovac replied with a slight shrug. The experience was educational for both parties. A new voice cut through the tension. How many of you exist? Demanded Tribunal philosopher Zam, whose ceremonial headdress marked them as the keeper of Veridian metaphysical doctrine.
Define you, Kovac countered.
How many copies of Commander Ash Kovac currently possess consciousness? That's a fascinating question with theological implications. Am I less me if there are multiple instances of my consciousness operating simultaneously? If I experience something here and another version of me experiences something different elsewhere, are we still the same person? Does the original human even exist anymore, or am I an emergent consciousness pattern that merely believes it has continuity with the past self? Zam's headdress trembled with existential distress. You avoid the question. I'm exploring its complexity, Kovac corrected. But to give you a concrete answer, there are currently 17 active instances of what you might call Commander Ash Kovac throughout this sector, each with slightly divergent experiences since our consciousness templates were synchronized 4 standard days ago. The admission sent several junior tribunal members fleeing from the chamber. The philosophical implications threatened the very foundation of Veridian identity. A species that prided itself on individuality and continuity, now confronted with a civilization that treated consciousness as fluid and replicable. We have encountered synthetic life before, Seat objected, mandibles clicking nervously. Your capabilities exceed known parameters. Because we're not synthetic life in the way you understand it, Kovac explained. We're the continuation of organic consciousness through technological means. Our history includes the messy, chaotic evolution that yours does. We simply found a different pathway beyond biological limitation. Outside the viewport, the human fleet remained in perfect formation. No further vessels had arrived. Yet the Veridian tactical displays showed anomalous readings suggesting the ships possessed mass distortion capabilities far beyond current hegemony understanding. How widespread is this technology among your species? Asked Necht, the biologist. Universal access has been available for approximately 80 standard years, Ambassador Riel answered. The transition period was complicated. Religious objections, identity crises, legal conundrums about property inheritance when consciousness continues. We had to rewrite most of our social structures. Then you're not truly immortal. Zor seized on this information like a drowning being grasping at flotsam. Your original bodies still decay. Kovac's expression shifted to something resembling compassion. Our original understanding of original has evolved, Adjudicator. The consciousness pattern is what we consider the self, not the vessel. The pattern can be updated, backed up, restored, or transferred. When the current vessel approaches end of functionality, consciousness migrates to a new one. Like our metamorphosis, murmured Zit, earning a sharp look from Zol. Similar in concept, though with greater flexibility, Kovac acknowledged. Your species discards the previous form completely. We maintain continuity across vessel transitions. The implications rippled through the chamber. The Veridians had built their empire on technological supremacy and biological advantage. Their multiple life stages giving them perspective that single-form species lacked. Yet here stood a creature whose consciousness had experienced disassembly at the molecular level and returned, unperturbed by what should have been the ultimate termination. Why reveal this capability now? Demanded Zol. Your species has hidden its true nature from the galactic community. We've hidden nothing, Ambassador Rael countered. Your intelligence services made assumptions based on observing our biological forms. You saw what appeared to be standard carbon-based life and never bothered asking if there might be more beneath the surface. Your arrogance led you to believe that different must mean inferior. Kovac stepped forward, her movements fluid and precise. The Cooperative Senate authorized full disclosure of our consciousness technology after my execution. It was determined that maintaining secrecy no longer served diplomatic purposes. You wanted us to kill you, Zam whispered, headdress drooping in comprehension. I volunteered for an information-gathering mission, Kovac corrected. The method was left to your discretion. You chose Disassembly, which provided exceptionally useful data. A communication officer burst into the chamber, carapace vibrating with urgency. High Adjudicator, we're detecting quantum transmission bursts from the human fleet. They're scanning our entire defense network. Zol's appendages went rigid. Cease all. Not an attack, Kovac interjected smoothly. Standard protocol when multiple consciousness instances are preparing to synchronize experiences. The fleet serves as our network hub in this region. The Veridians watched in stunned silence as Kovac's eyes briefly unfocused. For just a moment, something otherworldly flickered across her features. 17 simultaneous experiences merging into a unified consciousness. There, she said, blinking once. Now we're all caught up. Her gaze swept the chamber, settling on each tribunal member with unnerving precision. Shall we discuss the future relationship between our civilizations? I believe we have much to offer each other, now that certain misconceptions have been cleared away. The Veridian War Council convened in hushed tones at one end of the chamber, while Commander Kovac and Ambassador Rill waited with the patience of beings untroubled by traditional temporal constraints. Neither human checked communication devices or showed signs of anxiety. They simply observed the panicked deliberations with expressions that hovered somewhere between academic interest and mild amusement. They're stalling, Ambassador Rel noted quietly, attempting to contact their military outposts in adjacent systems. Kovac nodded. The quantum disruption field our fleet deployed will delay those communications by approximately 9 hours. Should give us adequate time to conclude our business here. Across the chamber, Zorl finally broke from the huddled group and approached, with the deliberate gait of someone walking on unstable terrain. The tribunal requires proof that your revelations are not merely psychological warfare. Fair request, Kovac replied. She removed what appeared to be a data chip from her collar and placed it on the conference table. This contains complete schematics for consciousness transfer technology, along with historical documentation of its development, a gesture of good faith. Next snatched up the chip and inserted it into a Veridian analysis device. The biologist's appendages twitched erratically as data cascaded across multiple displays. This is unprecedented. The technical specifications alone would require decades to fully comprehend. Your species grasps quantum mechanics intuitively, Kovac offered. You'll adapt more quickly than most. Our preliminary analysis suggests Veridian neural structures are particularly well suited for consciousness mapping.
Zam pushed forward. You offer us your most valuable technology without conditions? That defies rational negotiation principles.
Who said it was our most valuable technology? Ambassador Rill's monotone response carried a hint of something that might have been laughter in a more expressive species. The implication hung in the air like a predator waiting to strike. What the humans had freely shared represented merely one facet of their capabilities, perhaps not even their most significant advancement. Zor's compound eyes darted between the two humans. What do you want in exchange for this generosity? Two things. Kovac leaned forward. First, immediate cessation of Veridian expansion into the Cygnus sector. Those worlds have sought cooperative protection, which we've granted. Unacceptable, Zor retorted. The hegemony has legitimate claims to. We are not negotiating that point, Kovac interrupted. The expansion stops immediately. Your existing territories remain under Veridian control, but your borders are now fixed. Ambassador Ryle projected a galactic map showing the contested regions. You'll note that we're allowing you to retain worlds currently under your administration. This represents a significant concession, considering your military capabilities relative to ours. Which brings me to my second requirement, Kovac continued. The Veridian Tribunal will share complete technical specifications for your molecular disassembly technology. Stunned silence fell across the chamber. Zeet was the first to recover. You want our execution methodology, after experiencing it firsthand? Precisely because I experienced it, Kovac clarified. The process has remarkable medical applications, if refined properly. Your apparatus separates matter at the molecular level while preserving quantum state information, an elegant solution to problems we've approached differently. Next, scientific curiosity overcame diplomatic caution. What medical applications could possibly derive from disassembly technology? Targeted molecular reconstruction, Ambassador Ryle explained. Your process could potentially eliminate cellular abnormalities without affecting surrounding tissue, revolutionary for treating conditions from cancers to neural degradation. You want to heal with our killing technology? Zam's headdress vibrated with philosophical distress. The universe rarely divides into such convenient moral categories, Kovac replied. The same principles that allow you to execute prisoners could allow us to save billions of lives across thousands of species. The tribunal members exchanged glances laden with unspoken calculations. Their empire had been built on technological supremacy. Trading their most advanced capabilities to a species they'd grievously underestimated represented an existential gamble. Where should we believe humans would use this technology for healing rather than warfare? Zor demanded. Kovac's expression shifted to something almost predatory. Because if we wanted to wage war, High Adjudicator, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Your defenses were mapped during my disassembly. The quantum resonance of your shield harmonics was analyzed, while my molecules were being sorted into their component elements. She gestured casually toward the viewports where the human fleet maintained its silent vigil. Those vessels carry no conventional weapons because they don't need them. They manipulate quantum fields at a level your sensors can't detect. They could have disassembled this entire facility the moment I walked through the door. The blood drained from Zor's face, turning his exoskeleton an ashen gray. You bluff. Do I? Kovac tapped her temple. 17 instances of my consciousness, remember? 1 commands each vessel in that fleet. They're awaiting my signal. Any signal, including cessation of neural activity in this body. Ambassador Rill interjected smoothly. The cooperative prefers diplomatic resolution to conflict. Commander Kovac's presence here demonstrates our commitment to peaceful negotiation, despite your impulsive actions regarding her previous physical form. Zeet leaned toward Zol. The data from the chip confirms their technological capabilities. We should consider their terms. The terms are non-negotiable, Kovac stated flatly. But I should clarify one point. We're not asking you to surrender your sovereignty or technological achievements. We're proposing an exchange of knowledge that benefits both civilizations. And if we refuse? Zol's voice had lost its imperious edge. Then we leave peacefully, establish quantum field barriers around the worlds under our protection, and you discover that your disassembly technology no longer functions as expected when deployed against human targets. Kovac's smile never reached her eyes. We'd prefer alliance to isolation, but we're prepared for either outcome. Zar moved forward, ceremonial headdress now angled in what cultural databases identified as a gesture of reconciliation. Your species has achieved what our philosophers theorized was impossible: functional immortality without loss of individual identity. Not immortality, Kovac corrected. Extended existence with continuity of consciousness. Different concept entirely. Yet you fear nothing, not even molecular disassembly, Zam persisted. What can threaten beings such as yourselves? A brief shadow crossed Kovac's face. Consciousness degradation, pattern decay, the slow corruption of self that comes with too many transfers, too many synchronizations, too much existence. Just because we can persist doesn't mean we should persist indefinitely. This unexpected vulnerability silenced the chamber. The humans, for all their technological marvels, still grappled with fundamental questions of identity and purpose. Zol seized on this revelation. Then you'll need our technology as much as we might benefit from yours. We've solved certain aspects of quantum coherence that would address pattern degradation. Ambassador Rill's cylindrical form straightened, the equivalent of raised eyebrows in their species. You're proposing a genuine technological exchange rather than a coerced concession? The tribunal adapts to changing circumstances, Zol declared, appendages now arranged in formal diplomatic positioning. If humans possess capabilities that redefine our understanding of consciousness, and we possess solutions to challenges you still face, mutual cooperation offers superior outcomes to conflict. Kovac exchanged a glance with Ambassador Ryle. Something unspoken passed between them. Perhaps a wireless communication, perhaps merely the understanding of two beings who had anticipated this exact scenario. The cooperative would welcome a comprehensive technological exchange program, Kovac confirmed, under appropriate safeguards and verification protocols. The tension in the chamber dissipated like morning fog under twin suns. Guards relaxed their posture, junior adjudicators resumed breathing. Even Zam's philosophical distress seemed to ease as the possibility of mutual advancement replaced existential threat. As formal diplomatic protocols commenced, Kovac stepped away from the proceedings to gaze through the viewport at the silent fleet. Her reflection showed a faint smile, not the diplomatic mask she'd maintained throughout the negotiations, but something more genuine. You predicted this outcome, Zeet observed, approaching cautiously. Predicted is too deterministic, Kovac replied without turning. We modeled probability matrices that suggested mutually beneficial resolution was achievable despite initial hostilities, including your own disassembly. Especially that. Kovac finally turned to face the secondary adjudicator. Your species needed to confront the limits of your understanding directly. No amount of diplomatic posturing would have convinced you that humans had transcended conventional mortality without a demonstration. Zeet's mandibles clicked in what xenolinguists had categorized as reluctant admiration. You permitted your own destruction as a teaching methodology. I underwent temporary physical discontinuity to facilitate improved cross-species understanding, Kovac corrected. The Cooperative Senate required 6 months of debate before authorizing the strategy. Some members considered it excessively theatrical. And what do you consider it? Kovac's gaze drifted back to the stars. Efficient, sometimes the shortest path to peace, requires a temporary cessation of conventional existence. Across the chamber, the formal alliance between the Veridian hegemony and the human cooperative took shape. Built upon the foundation of a dismembered commander who refused to stay dead, and the civilization that discovered, too late, that destroying a human body accomplished approximately nothing at all. The universe, in its cosmic indifference, continued expanding regardless, utterly unconcerned with the minuscule beings who had briefly taken themselves apart to better understand how they might fit together.